Hi, Frankie. How are you doing?
I'm really great. It's a beautiful day in Los Angeles. I got my puppy on my lap, and I would like to introduce Appa to
Oh my
everyone.
God.
Appa,
Yes,
come say
please, please,
hello, please.
please.
My
Oh
ba
my God. Oh my God. How old?
oh, my 1 year old Appa, red toy poodle, just icon. You're an icon. You're an icon.
Already
So
an icon.
I
Yeah.
know, right? Just an icon, not even in training, just full icon
No, just
status.
just right out
So it's a
icon.
good
Yeah.
day. Thank you.
Good deal. Good deal. Well, thank you so, so much for joining this. I think this is like such an awesome topic. And I think that you're just an icon in the community as it is. So would love to get your insight into any and all of this.
Great.
So, just to kind of jump right in and kind of like starting from like a broader perspective, I feel like diversity and inclusion has become like such a buzzword. Whether like brands are throwing it out or whatever it is, it's like, oh, we're inclusive. We have like such a diverse lineup, and I know that like changes, and being in that whole like range of now being like a buzzword,
Mhm.
what does like diversity and inclusion mean to you personally? And then with that, how do you bring that across the projects that you're working on, like your own view of that?
Sure. Um, what it means to me is that your project, your brand, your platform, whatever it is, when it is seen by a cross section of people, everyone can see a part of themselves or everyone can identify. Like if you're truly diverse and you're truly inclusive, then your message can relate to everyone, no matter like where they are, what shade of skin, their sexual orientation, their gender identification, whatever it is, everyone can see a part of themselves in it. And so how do I do that in my projects? The thing that it is kind of innate within me, as someone who has just been raised the way that I have and always been raised to think about inclusion and about diversity. But honestly, like I've still learned a lot in the past year. And so, I think that I've just always made it kind of something that is always in the forefront of my mind now. Like, is this inclusive? Is me saying yes to this project or to this brand furthering inclusivity? Are they a company that I believe in, that I want to work in moving forward? And is this story that I'm about to tell, this project that I'm embarking in, whether it's as an actor or a producer, going to relate to as many people as possible? And those are just the things that I think about as I accept work and try to create work.
I think that's awesome. I think that's also super important. And I love the point that you made that like it means appealing to everyone. So
Mhm.
everyone can see like a bit of themselves in that. And it doesn't just have to be like one group or another. Um, so super, super important and
And it's a
awesome.
tall order.
It
That's the other thing
is.
I want to say. Like, it's not something that like is very simple to do. Like, it does definitely sometimes for some projects, yeah, of course, it's very simple. But in other things, you have to actually, put some time and effort into thinking about it. And I think that, as creatives now in this time in 2021, with the world being as fractured and politically divided as it is right now, like as responsible creators, it's a question that we have to constantly be asking ourselves, which is a new muscle for a lot of people. And so that's what I always like. I always like to be very, um, what's the word? Like non-aggressive towards it. You know what I'm saying? Like sympathetic. I understand. Like for some people, it's a new muscle. And that's okay that it's a new muscle as long as you're using it and as long as you're flexing it and as long as you're willing to grow this new muscle in your vocabulary so that we can moving forward. It's an easy thing to do for you, you know?
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's also something you think of like people who are like new to college or something like that, and maybe they haven't met people from certain backgrounds or whatever, and it becomes like that learning experience, and then you
Yes.
learn from there how to incorporate. So I think like even with brands and even on the management side, like being able to like just go back to those roots of like maybe I don't know everything about everyone, but like being open to it and willing to push it. I
Yes.
think again, that's how you're going to see success
I
for sure.
agree. I think that leading with love and leading with the desire to be better is always something that can get you to that ideal that you're striving for. I think it's when we're very harsh and we're very close-minded and we're very like you did that wrong, now you are canceled. Like though that kind of mentality to me is not helpful. And so I think that, like, oh, you know what, listen, like, I'm going to call you out because you didn't do that correctly, in my mind, but let's have a dialogue about it so that you understand maybe the next time you'll do better.
Right.
That's, that's
Turn it
good.
into a learning
Yeah,
experience,
we all
100%.
need to learn. Everyone needs to learn. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
No one is doing this. No one is doing this 100% correct. There are people out there
No,
that say like we are the brand that do it 1,000,000% correct, and and I'm like, no, you're doing a great job, but are you 1,000,000% correct? I don't know. I don't know
right,
that anyone
exactly.
is. I don't know that
Maybe
anyone
when you
is.
get there, share your secrets and
Yeah.
tips, but like we'll be the judge of that.
Exactly. Listen, I'm always learning. That's all I can say. I'm always learning and I'm always growing, and I think that's what makes me a good person. That's it.
Yeah, I would again agree. So I think kind of like going from there. So do you think that companies should have any sort of like mandatory training for people in management positions around like diversity and inclusion? And one thing that kind of comes to mind is like, especially like a manager who is maybe managing someone from the trans community.
Hmm.
Like I had a friend who just recently came out, and what a process and the bravery that goes into that.
Yes.
And like if someone never had any like any background or any experience with someone who's going through that and then they're their manager, how does that work and what do
Yeah.
you think?
I think absolutely you need to have inclusion and diversity training, especially for a situation like you just mentioned. But it's also like it some people know. They innately know they're part of the community, they're hip, they're with it, they get it. But there are people that don't, and those people shouldn't be like expected to know what to do in situations where they're encountering people that have completely different identities or kind of diverse inclusion that they're not familiar with. Like you shouldn't expect anyone to know, and so you should definitely train them so that they don't set themselves up for disaster. And also, when you're in a position of power and you have somebody coming in as an employee who is below you, that employee might not feel comfortable saying, you know what, that made me feel uncomfortable because their job might be on the line. And so if you have someone like a diversity inclusion person or someone who that they can then talk to about their manager, and then that can be relayed to the manager in a loving way, it doesn't allow for this conflict, like they didn't use my correct pronouns. And instead of saying to your manager like you just misgendered me, there's an intermediary that can then smooth out that transition. I think that that's okay because also that person might not feel comfortable saying you misgendered me to their manager, and then all of a sudden they're hiding their identity. They are feeling like crap at work. They don't want to come to work. They feel like they're in an unsafe working environment. And so I really do think training and having someone like a different component within the HR department, like someone specifically for diversity and inclusion, is really important for any big company or any small company, really, moving forward. I think it's really useful.
Yeah, and especially like if you think about like how fast some of these companies are moving, and even someone in HR is already dealing with so much stuff. Like I think I agree. I think having that designated person who is in charge of handling situations like that and doing these trainings would be so beneficial for anyone because
Yes.
again, everyone comes from these different backgrounds and it's like they're not always going to be understood because you can't just like cookie cut people and put them in boxes. It's
Hmm.
not always going to be the same,
Right.
right? Yeah.
And even
Like,
within an individual community, like there are new pronouns that are coming up, there are new expectations that are expected of the community all the time that are we're learning. Again, we're all learning. And so like as it's like there's no textbook that's been written right now that's like up to date, you know what I'm saying? And there might not be.
mm,
So you really need someone who is like has their ear to the ground, and then also just is a compassionate learner that can just kind of bridge it. And that's the thing, like I don't necessarily know like like if there's a specific training protocol or something for whoever your like inclusion diversity manager is, but or if it's just someone who's just insanely empathic and someone who's just really good at listening and really good at problem solving and like has a really good heart, and like maybe that's it, like that's just what we need.
I think that, yeah, investment in that is totally worth it, you know? And I think maybe like the whole idea of the word mandatory. Like, what do you think about, like, I feel like that could be like such
Mm.
a turn off for someone, but
Unfortunately, people, especially Americans, we don't do things unless they're mandatory. Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
that's
remember
true.
when the
Yeah.
governor of Hawaii was like, pretty please don't come here. Don't come to our beautiful paradise because we got too many people here. But it's just a suggestion. Guess who doesn't listen? Us. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? If you say it's mandatory, fine, I won't go. But if you're saying it's just a general suggestion for you not to come to this beautiful paradise, I'm booking my flight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
do. I understand the what the need for mandatory is, and maybe it is a strong word, but I think we need strong words, especially coming around things like this that are so sensitive and are such button topics in social media, in politics, in the world today. Like mandatory is an okay word. I think we need it.
I agree. And I think like in terms of something that does affect health and like mental health in general, mandatory isn't a strong word. I mean, look at like mandatory mask mandates that we have in
Yes,
LA right now, you
yes,
know?
mandatory
It's the only way
to
people would do
save
it.
lives. Period.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah.
This is going to save
Yeah.
lives. This is going to make people feel included. They're going to make people not want to, have issues with their mental health and like feel like they can't come to work and be in a safe environment. Like we need to feel safe all the time. So mandatory, I love it.
Great. Great.
Yeah.
Especially if you're spending like 8 hours a day somewhere, eight
Yeah.
hours plus. Yeah.
Yes.
You want to feel good
You really
for
do.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to feel like you can be yourself. You know what? I want my hair to be
Do
this
it.
purple and this tall every time I show up to work?
God, I love it. Yeah. So then kind of like within that vein, what do you think a proper way would be for like a brand or a company to publicize like their support of a marginalized community? Um, I think that
Hmm.
so many times brands will just be like, okay, we'll include more diverse content creators. And that will be our image that we're now more diverse because we have
Right.
more diverse content creators and like we've checked our boxes.
My feeling is actions speak louder than words. If you truly are a diverse company with a very eclectic group of people that are doing your work in high positions throughout your company, then you don't need to shout it from the rafters. Like it is just inherently within you. I do understand companies that have bad reputations wanting to change it and wanting to change it very quickly and wanting to change it overnight. Like I understand that, but that may be an unrealistic expectation. Maybe you need to actually change from the inside out, and then in months or maybe even years later, your reputation will then be repaired because you truly are a diverse company who has representation throughout all the tiers. And that's the thing that I think we need to understand is that like you can't just hire a bunch of groundlings that look like the Benetton calendar and say like we're diverse. Like no, you need to hire at all levels, all the way to top upper echelon management. And that is truly what a diverse company is. And I know that that's not going to happen overnight. So if you're releasing a press release that says like this happened overnight, like that's not true change.
Mm.
Listen, it's moving the right direction for sure. But in terms of publicizing, I think the best way, simple answer. I just spoke for 5 minutes, but the simple answer is actions speak louder than press releases.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like I think at the end of the day, and like what this is all about is the fact is like by doing something like that, you're gonna see better results. You
Yes.
know, like what's the holdback?
100%. And that's the thing. It's like we're not, and this is another complete, I'm very strong about this. I feel like yes, you should hire diverse employees, but they all need to be very qualified for the job. Everyone
Hmm.
there cannot be any sort of sacrificing of quality of work, just to be more inclusive. And there's no reason to be because there are people at all levels that are qualified and smart and all sorts of diverse packages, so there is no reason to sacrifice quality. But that's what I'm saying. Like you don't just like hire a bunch of people and just be like, oh great, you're the president of the company, but
Yeah.
just so we can look diverse. Like no, that can't work either. So there is definitely it'll take some for some companies it will take time, and that's okay. And that's okay also to say like we're working on this. We've heard you. We're doing our best, and we are moving towards. This is our goal. This is our 5 year plan. This is our 10 year plan. If you want to share us what your 5 and 10 year plan is for down the line and talk about that publicly, then that's great. We would love that. But like in terms of like a magic, like, oh cool, we fixed it. Yeah, I don't know.
And yes, and I think that like, for example, like looking back at like the past year and like how much has gone on and how much like cultural change there has been,
Mm.
um like I think that maybe like push the pedal to the metal.
Yes.
So have you seen like things come out of that? Like would you say that you've seen like these
Yes.
changes, maybe things, yeah?
Yes, I would. I've seen it in, I'm an actor, so I've seen it in film and TV. I shot a movie in June and it was an entire queer leading cast with queer directors and queer writers. Like I was like, what is this
How
magical
often does that
world?
happen?
No, and it was like so cool to be a part of it. I shot it during Pride on in June. So like things like that were amazing. Like seeing Marvel introducing gay characters has been amazing for me, specifically because I identified as LGBT. Those are the kind of inclusion things that really resonate for me. So I have seen people making big changes and big tries in the entertainment world. I've seen it at award shows. I've seen many things that make me happy and feel like I'm more of a part of than I ever have been in the past, which is really great. And, I think so I have seen people making huge efforts very quickly. And I think, entertainment has always kind of been an industry where we're kind of at the forefront of political change, diversity, inclusion, challenging messages, challenging the status quo and the norm. So I'm not surprised that it was one of the first to be like, boom, we're inclusive. Like HBO
Right.
Max, like amazing job. Like they have such inclusive, amazing content. So like it's just wonderful. So yeah, I have definitely seen a big shift in my field for sure.
Honestly, that's so cool to hear, especially because I feel like the entertainment agents industry itself is like such a tastemaker too for
Mm-hmm.
like cultural
Yes.
opinion too. So I think this is so awesome to hear this, that like you're seeing these changes on your end, which like eventually will kind of like trickle down to the rest and
Yeah, there
change
was a gay kiss in
opinions.
a Marvel movie. Hello. We just
Like
had a
I
gay
don't
kiss
like
in Eternals. That's amazing. An interracial
wait.
gay kiss in a Marvel movie.
Re- Oh
In
my God, I
Eternals.
have not
Yeah.
seen it. I have not seen it yet, but
In a
that's
blockbuster
incredible.
movie. These are
See,
great
I feel like that has
things.
never ever happened. I don't even
Oh,
like
no. It's a
even
first.
thinking about that, like seeing some sort of representation.
Yeah.
Whoa,
Yeah. It was
okay,
really cool.
that's
It was really
incredible.
awesome. Yeah.
No,
And
because
I
like
and
you,
really I'm sure really challenging for a lot of people to watch, which is also why it needs to be there, you know?
you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's something in the challenge, right?
Oh
Pushing the
yeah.
envelope a bit.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And
Yeah.
that's why companies can't be afraid, to do that. And that this applies to all brands, not just entertainment. Like you can't be afraid to promote someone who deserves it, who doesn't look like everyone else, because everyone else will be upset. You can't. You can't.
Yeah.
Like you have to promote based on merit, and then you have to promote based on inclusion. And then if people have issues with it, that's too bad, you know.
At the end of the day, everyone's going to have issues. All you have to do is go into Twitter for like 2 seconds, right? And
Don't.
it's like,
And that's the thing
that's how
is
you want to
like
feel bad.
that's where I feel a tremendous amount of sympathy for certain companies because you know that they're getting such backlash for trying to do the right thing and be inclusive, and that's where I'm always like I try to be very forgiving and like understand like if as long as you are trying to do the right thing, then I am gonna support you as much as I can because you need your allies. These companies require allies as much as they can in their when as they are trying to shift their genetic profile, as you would say. So we have to support them and be less critical of people that are not doing it fast enough,
Mhm.
or we feel are not doing it correctly. If they're truly trying, we should be as supportive as we can be.
And that kind of leads me to the next question. So, come June,
Mm,
we see pride washing out the wazoo,
yes.
um, which, like, a lot of times I feel like, okay, like there's some heart here and like
Yeah.
I like to see it. It makes me feel supported, kind of. Um, but how do you feel? Like, what do you think that brands should continue to like change their logo to a like rainbow
Yes,
for June? Does it make you feel supported?
absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And that's the danger I think that we're skirting like a very, very dangerous territory where people are like, you're only changing this rainbow, to be inclusive of the gay community. Like, like, listen to that sentence. You're only changing your logo to be inclusive of the gay community. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that because the other option is for them to not. So you're mad at Citibank for the rainbow, right? You're whatever for whatever reason they're not. But then their their other option is to not do it. And so in June, instead of seeing the rainbow, it is not a rainbow, and it's just the Citibank logo. And that to me is sad. That is not inclusive of the gay community. And you know what? It's not for me. And that's what I think everyone needs to understand. There's a lot of people in like New York and LA that are up in arms about pride washing, but it's not for you. It is for the little kids in Oklahoma and in Iowa and in these small towns where they're walking by the Gap and it is rainbow and they're like, wait a second, what? Like, that's a gay thing, right? Like, that's a gay thing. And it's for the dads and it's for the moms who are like, you know what? I am just going to be, you know what? Maybe it isn't so bad. If the Gap is doing it, if Citibank is doing it, if Bank of America is doing it, if Listerine is doing it, then maybe it's not evil. Then maybe I'm on board with this LGBTQ thing. Like maybe it's kind of fun. Like rainbows are cool. So that's my feeling about it. I don't think that brands should take it away. You know, I think that brands should try to be inclusive for Pride all the time. I want everyone to have a rainbow. Again, like it would be wonderful if they backed it up with their actions. You know, if their hiring policies reflect LGBTQ inclusion, if there was a proportion of the proceeds donated for every product that they sold during Pride to an LGBTQ charity and organization. These would all be wonderful things. But at the risk of saying that we won't get that visual inclusion, like I would rather see the rainbows. I would rather see the rainbows than be like you don't get to put the rainbow on it because you didn't XYZ. Like I want to see the rainbows.
I think that's a actually really good point. Like the fact, like mentioning that again, it's not for the people in the cities per
It's
se.
not.
It's for the, yeah,
And as
the
long as
people
they
out
do
there.
it
Like,
across the board, which I know they're doing, you know what I'm saying? Like if Citibank was like, I'm only putting a rainbow on in New York and LA, then what are you doing? You're crazy. But if you do it in every single Citibank around the nation, and as you know, I don't know why I'm calling out Citibank. I just remember the rainbow.
love
Um,
Citibank.
yeah, seriously, I'm just calling it out because I like that they did it. I liked that they did it. And if you're going to do it in everyone around the entire nation, especially in places where they are deeply homophobic and they still have to look at that rainbow every time they walk into the bank, then yes, then that's a victory. That is a W for me.
Hmm. Major W. I agree. I
Yes.
agree.
Good,
Um,
I changed your mind.
you changed my mind.
I did. I
I think
changed
my
your mind because I could tell when you
you
asked the
did.
question that you were not expecting
Well,
that
this is
answer.
the thing. I was not expecting that answer, and
Mm-hmm.
I was like, personally, I was like, okay, I see all of these companies changing their logos just for June. Maybe they're putting out like a pride item. Like I'm thinking of like when Target did that rainbow suit that they had, and I was like, I felt I was like, you're just trying to capitalize on my
Yes.
identity,
Yeah.
and that's where I was like a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
"Hmm."
And you're not
But
wrong. But the message that it's sending to the world is we support this. The
and
message that
and
it's sending to that little kid is like, oh, that's okay because it's in the center of my target. You
yeah,
know, that's how
yeah,
I feel.
no, and I see that now. I see
Yeah.
that now.
You're not
I think that's
wrong. They're
such a
definitely trying
fantastic
to
point.
capitalize on your sexual identity. There's no I'm not saying that they're not. I'm just saying that I'm totally okay with it because of the message that it sends, which is that yes, we're trying to capitalize on your sexual identity, but we're doing it because we think it's okay. because we think it is a valid form of living your life. And I think that that is unfortunately a message that needs to be heard now in this world because homophobia is still so rampant. So I don't think that we can slap away the hand that's been feeding us. Like I feel really like any help that we can get, any ally, anyone who steps forward to say be an ally, like we need to say thank you for being an ally rather than saying like you're not doing it well enough and you are stripped of your rights to support us.
True. True. And it's bold, I guess, at the end of the day. It's
Yeah.
bold for them to do that.
Also,
Like,
everyone, it's a company. You know what I'm saying? If they're not trying to sell, then what are they trying to do? You know,
yeah, exactly. Well,
that's what
exactly
they
at the end
do.
of the
They try to
day.
sell. You know, they have
Yeah, that's
they're
the
selling
point. That's
things.
the
You know,
point.
yeah.
Right. Um, Not to spend like too much more time on that, but like again, it's like bold. I remember like the Mets changed their logo, and I don't know if that was the first time this past year, but like again, I was looking on Twitter because like I was like, I love this team, but then you see all of the comments and you realize they are sticking their necks out there,
Yeah,
by
of
doing
course
that.
they are. I
But
think
you
I went
feel
to the
seen.
Pride game. Oh, it was the Nets. I went to the Net. Is that a basketball
The
team?
Mets,
Yeah.
New
Which
York
one is the
Mets, they're like
basketball
the
then?
underdog team. That's the Nets.
Okay, I went to that
But
game.
I'm also
Um,
like so out with sports. So like you're asking the wrong person. Like I'm from New York, so like I know some of the teams, but that's it.
but yes, you're right. They are sticking there because there is a lot of hate that they're getting. And so if you're going to be getting that kind of amount of hate, then you are, then you're doing something right. If you're getting hate from homophobic people, then you're doing something right for the LGBTQ community.
Mhm.
But it would be
Amen.
nice if we didn't also give them hate. So like their
Right.
decision wasn't just hate from everyone. That's what I'm saying. Like then they'll stop doing it. And we don't want that. We don't want that. But like, yes, please, let's get them to donate to LGBTQ charities. Oh my God, great, wonderful. Let's get them to hire more LGBTQ people, and like that's part of their story too. Please, yes, that is the ultimate goal. But in the meantime, like I'll take the visual inclusion.
I get that. And we did get a question kind of around like the hiring bit.
Yes, go.
So the question is in regards to diverse hiring, any thoughts on like hiring bias? Because
Mm.
sometimes, people might have their own internal bias and like, I don't know, skip a candidate because of that.
I guess I would ask specifically what you're talking about in terms of what a hiring bias would be. Um,
I'm, oh, sorry.
no, please ask. Answer because that's my question.
So what I'm thinking that they're meaning is, say someone is a little bit homophobic
Hmm.
and the person that they're interviewing completely like fits the job position, they have the
Hmm.
experience,
I
but
understand
the only reason why they're not getting that is because maybe
of a hiring bias.
they express themselves a little too much.
Right. That is, I mean, that's a very difficult question. I guess that it would have to be, this comes kind of with the diversity and inclusion kind of training, would probably be part of this, where you would have to actually like say to these people, look at their hiring records and have the diversity inclusion employee tell them, listen, like you've only hired white men for the past 7 years. Like, do you understand that you have a hiring bias? Like, this might be a conversation
Hmm.
that this person has never heard in their life. It might be something they're very aware of. It might be something they're not aware of. If they are and then if after that conversation they are making changes to their hiring bias, then you keep them. If they aren't, you boot them. Like that would be my best goal. Like, but give them the opportunity. That's why this diversity and inclusion person who needs a title. I desperately wish that I had a title right now for them. For Sasha Fierce, this is time for Sasha Fierce, your diversity and inclusion guru, to come in and say, "I've been looking at your stuff." The kind of same way they do with judges. Like they would be like, this person has a judging bias, and like everyone knows about this judging bias. Like this is your hiring bias. Everyone knows about your hiring bias. So unless it changes, like you're going to be the one that's on the chopping block, kind of thing.
Hmm. Hmm. Yep. Yep. And then just kind of like shifting gears a little bit. What do you think about brands who have an initiative that aims to only target like LGBTQ plus or other minorities. So they're like,
Yes.
okay, we have this like high-end razor and we think that gay men are gonna love
Right.
this. So we're only gonna target gay men. Do you think that's taken advantage of the community, or what's kind of your thought on something like that?
I mean, for that particular example, no. If you're marketing a product for a man, like, if there's a particular, um, I mean, in my mind, I've gone to like very specific products that only gay men would use. Like, so for things that would be like, for gay things. Do you know what I'm saying? But so
Mm-hmm.
the in that particular example, no. Um, if it is truly a product that should be consumed by everyone, and you are trying to hit multiple demographics with your advertising campaign, that's what people have been doing for years. For like, that's what marketing and advertising is deciding, you know what, like we have this Gillette razor. It is a razor that can be used by gay men and straight men, but we would like to include gay men in our campaign. That's how I would look at it, because like for say like a company like Gillette, like it's very straight. It's very like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a straight man who likes to shave to get ready for my girlfriend. But if all of a sudden it was like, I am a hot man who likes to shave, and then I'm standing with next to my boyfriend and he's also shaving, again, to me that's a message of inclusion, of saying like, listen, we have been a brand that only marketed to straight people for a bazillion years, but now we're also marketing to gay people. That's inclusion to me. So and it's so I don't find any particular fault in like the general idea of marketing to gay people, as long as it is sending that message of inclusion for the community that, again, people that are in those red states desperately need to see on their televisions when there is a commercial for Survivor. Like when,
Mm-hmm.
if there were two men shaving next to each other, holding hands on a Survivor commercial break, I will buy that razor just to support them. You know what I'm saying? Just be like, good
Yeah.
job. So that's in my mind. And I know I'm like, I don't know why I feel like I'm progressive in this view, but I feel like any sort of representation for the gay community in big commercials and in big platforms and in marketing campaigns is a good thing. Even if it's really just trying to sell a product, because we know they're trying to sell a product because it's a
Right.
product.
Just give
Like
us
they're
some
not trying to lose
representation.
money. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and maybe some companies will, and that's the other thing. Like we have to support these companies, because by targeting and marketing to gay people, if it is an inclusive marketing campaign, they might be losing customers. We're like, you know what? I'm never going to use that razor again because they just marketed to gay people. So it is. I think the LGBTQ community should be more supportive of people who are trying to do it. Now, I mean, if they're just buying Facebook ads on only gay people's pages, that's a different story. But if there's an inclusive
Mm.
message in their branding and marketing campaign that shows and depicts gay relationships, fuck yeah, let's do it. Buy me that
Yeah,
razor.
gotta stand up, support them, even if it's baby steps.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, yeah. So
Because the
then
because
kind
the
of like,
other option is that they don't.
true, true. And then what do you have? Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
You have the same
Um,
straight commercial that I've been seeing for my entire life.
over
Hi,
and
Chris.
over. Hi, Chris. Back again. That was
Hey,
very quick.
I know. See, these
Um,
things are a blink of an eye.
I
Go
talk
ahead,
a
yeah.
Frankie.
lot. It's my fault.
No,
It's a
no,
gift.
no. It
It's
was
a
so
gift.
good.
Yeah, honestly, it's such a great argument, and I love your perspective on it, Frankie. I think there are parts of it that seem like trite and seem like a little bit pathetic, but like you again have to put it through the lens of the fact that these companies are soliciting you. They're trying to sell you something, and it is
Always. They're
yeah,
always
and
trying to sell you something.
yeah, and like you said, Chris, and the messages you see on social and stuff like that, the blowback is disgusting. It's like
Yeah.
really, really crazy. And so, brands still have a lot to learn. They're going to figure it out in time. But here's to the brave ones that at least are willing to stick their neck out. So,
Yes. I
thankful for
agree.
that.
I agree. And I support them. And I think, again, everyone is learning. This is not me saying
Mhm.
anyone is doing anything correctly.
Yep.
Just so you know, I'm not saying anyone's doing it right. I'm not saying
Mhm,
that. I'm saying that like the people that are trying should be
Mhm.
supported by the communities that they're trying to represent, because the alternative is that they're just going to get hammered by the people that wish that they would stop. And then they're going to say, you
Mhm.
know what? We're not getting support from anyone. We tried this thing to be inclusive, and now, you know, it's not working out because everyone hates us. And so
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know. For me, that's a lose, and I would rather them continue to do their support for in whatever way they can while they are learning how to do it correctly.
Yeah, and we got to reverse the majority so that the minority are going to be the people that are hateful, and then
Yes.
they're not even going to feel welcome anymore. They're not going to say anything anymore because no one's going to even want to hear their shit anymore.
Right. And we need it. I mean, the world is so fractured, as you know. So the more big companies we have standing up for inclusion is a win for me. We need it. We really do. It's a very dangerous time out there. For anyone, I'm just gonna say, anybody who's watching this, like try to lead with love. Try to spend less of your time hating and trying to tear people down and cancel people. Like, if someone needs to learn a lesson, then try to teach them that lesson with love, because that's the only way that we're going to achieve and see results in our current climate.
Well said. Thank you so much, Frankie.
Perfect send off. Yeah.
It is. Well, I'll give one last thing. Since you were so kind to join us today, is there anything that you'd like to promote today? Anything you'd like to tell our brand marketers about in passing or in closing?
Well, if there are any SpongeBob fans out there, I have my SpongeBob Binge Pants podcast with Nickelodeon and iHeartRadio. Nickelodeon is definitely a company, and so is iHeartRadio, that I do think is doing it right. So do come on over and listen anywhere where you stream your podcast. New episodes every Wednesday and Thursday, every Thursday. And you can follow me on all my socials, Frankie J. Grande.
Love it. Well, my friend Jenny Wall is the CMO of Nickelodeon. We were just talking about all this last week, so we're going to have to pass this along.
Oh,
She'll
please
be
tell
very,
her.
very happy.
They're amazing. They went dark for 8 minutes and 48 seconds with George Floyd. I mean, like, they have been just like so unbelievable, Nickelodeon. So
Progressive,
I'm on a show, Danger Force. We have I am a fully very, very gay character. There is a trans actor on our show. They talk about trans issues on the show. It's been amazing. So anyway, good job, Nickelodeon. Love y'all.
Love it. All right. Thanks again, Frankie. We'll see you next time.